Hi guys, so today we're going to be looking at creating an app, and this is going to be a very topical app, useful right now. It's going to be an app to monitor the progress of the coronavirus. So you might know that there's lots of data sources on the internet which aren't designed as websites, so they're not for people to view directly, but instead they provide data which can be accessed by programs in order to create monitoring or graphs or stuff like that. So we're going to have a look at how we could use something like that today. Now I'm not going to use an actual data source because you guys are just doing a programming exercise, and I don't want to put extra load on the servers of the health organizations or anything like that. So what I've done is I've copied that data onto my own website, but it will still be updated regularly. So your app will still work, it will be updated automatically, and you can get your information from the server. So apart from the web address, it doesn't change anything. We'll still be doing all of the correct methodology in order to get this data and then display it in our app. The first thing is we need to import a few libraries. So these are extra capabilities that Python has. So first of all, I'm going to import urllib.request. Now that's quite a long thing to import, so what I do is I put urllib.request as request, and it just means that I can type request instead of urllib.request in order to save a bit of typing. Okay, now the second thing I need to import is JSON. Okay, with those imports I'm ready to start getting data from the internet and looking at that data with Python. So to get the data from the internet, I write the word with request.url open. Now I write the address of my web data. Now I've copied and pasted that, but it doesn't seem to copy and paste, so I'm going to have to type it out again. So it's https://www.hacksnacks.com/apps/covid/ and then you type the name of the country that you're interested in. So I'm going to do Poland.json. Now you can pick whatever country you like. If the country's got a space in it, like United States, then you should put an underscore character between the words. Okay, so I write that with request.url open, then I put the name of the location on the internet as file. Now guys, don't worry if you don't understand all of this part, because this is just a pattern that you can use in your programs. You don't have to understand exactly how it works. Okay, so now I'm going to read the data. I will put days equals json.load file. Okay, and when I do that, I can click run. It's going to run my program. And once it's run, if I type days, it actually provides me with all sorts of information about different days, starting from the 22nd of January this year. Okay, so it goes right back to the 22nd of January, and then it goes up to the most recent date is the 22nd of March. So you've got 2 months worth of information there, and it's actually the 23rd today when I record this video, but it takes 1 day for them to collect the information. So this is pretty up-to-date information. Okay, so now I've got all of that information, I can write an app which allows you to have a look at the information and to do whatever processing you want with it. So here I've got all of these different days, but you might think, well, that's not very useful. How can I actually get information about a particular day? So it's really easy. All you have to do is put day equals days, and then you put a number. Now 0 means the first day, so that would be the 22nd of January, or 1 would be the 23rd of January, 2 would be the 24th of January. Now if you want to get the most recent date, the very last day, then there's a trick. Instead of putting 1, 2, 3 or whatever, you put -1, and that means counting from the most recent day going backwards. I want the very last day. Okay, so the day I'm going to look at is the very last day I have data for, which is yesterday, so that's the 22nd of March. Now I'm going to print out some information. So let's say that I want to know how many cases there were yesterday. Now if I look in this data, I can see that the word for that is cases. So I'm going to write a variable cases equals day.get, and then I put cases in brackets like that. Okay. Now I'm going to print out a message. So yesterday there were. Now my message goes in quotation marks, but then the number of cases, that's a variable, so I just write it without quotation marks. Okay, let's try running the program. And there we go. It tells me how many cases there were yesterday. Now when you run it, you might get different information because you will be running this program at a different time to me recording the video, and the information you get might be different. Hopefully it will be lower, but I don't know if that will be the case. I suspect it might be higher. Okay, now remember I can get cases for different days, so remember if I wanted to go to the first day, I would change this from -1 to 0. Okay, that's the very first day that I have data for, the 22nd of January. If I run that, how many cases were there in Poland? There were none. Okay, so the 22nd of January there were no cases in Poland. What lovely times. Think back to those days. Okay, so this allows me to get some data from the internet. Let's add a little bit more data. So there's actually 4 things I can find out about any particular day. So as well as the number of cases, I can get the date. So the date is, and then I will put day.get date. So this prints the day is, and then this gets the date of the day that we're looking at. Okay, now let's write the number of cases again. There are, now I'll put day.get cases. Okay, so this prints out the number of cases. There are a few other things we can find out. So I can put cases.get. Now sorry guys, this is a bit morbid, but I'm going to get deaths. People have died. So this tells you how many people have died from the virus. It's complaining there. That's because I've put cases. I should have put day.get deaths. Okay, and then lastly, I'm going to a little bit more optimistic now. I'll put day.get recovered, and this is the number of people who have got better. Okay, so if I run that code, now this is for the very first day, 22nd of January, and on that day there were no cases, nobody had died, and nobody had recovered. So let's change that. Let's look back at yesterday. Okay, so I'll change that days to -1, and I'll run the program again. And okay, so yesterday there were 634 cases, 7 people had died. Okay, unfortunately, and 1 person had recovered. Oh, I'm going to sneeze. I hope that's not coronavirus. Okay, after that sneeze, I'm back. Let's look at how we can use this information to make an app. So, what I'm going to do next is let's look at making a menu. So to make a menu, I'm going to put while true print 1 show today's data, print 2 exit app. Okay, now if, oh sorry, hold on, choice equals input, enter choice. Now this prints out the text, and this will ask the user to enter a number, so they can enter 1 to see today's data, or they can enter 2 to leave the app. Now this while true part, that makes this menu repeat until somebody chooses to exit the app. Okay, so we'll have a look at how to handle that in just a second. So if choice equals 2 in quotation marks, what I want to do is exit the app, and the way you do that is you type break. Okay, so that means that's the end of the program. If somebody types 2, it's the end of the program. Let's put that on a new line. Okay, now what about if someone types 1? Well, if someone types 1, I want to show today's data, which is the program I've already written, so I'll put if choice equals 1, and then I'll take that program that I've written already, I'm going to cut and paste it up here, and because this is an if statement, after if statements or while statements I need to indent a little bit, so this needs to be spaced inward from where it would normally be. If your program doesn't work, check that spacing, so please notice that while true is on the very left side. These statements are all indented once, okay, so they're lined up with this first grey line. These statements are indented twice, so that means that you've got 2 grey lines before you get to the actual statement. Okay, now let's run that program and we'll check it. Okay, I can type number 1, show today's data, and press enter, and it shows me information about today. Now, I can type number 1 as many times as I like. If I'm one of those people that obsessively checks the data every second, I hope that's not the case for you, because it doesn't do any good. Don't make yourself nervous about this kind of stuff. Okay, but if you want to quit the app, you can press number 2 and enter, and then that leaves the application. Okay, so we've made a simple app there that shows us what is happening each day. Okay, now let's have a look at some more information. So what I'm going to do today, what I'm going to do next is to add an option to see a graph. So I'll put print to show graph, and because I'm going to use number 2 for the graph, I'll need to change the exit to number 3. So let's click here and change that to number 3. Okay, and let's write choice number 2. So if choice equals 2, now I'm going to write out a graph. So this graph is going to be for every day, so I'll put for day in days. Okay, now this means I'm going to go through every day that I've got data for. Okay, so for every day in all of the days that I know about, I'm going to get the number of cases, and then I'm going to print a graph of that. So I will print. Now to make the graph, I'm going to do a very simple graph just using text. What I'll do is I'll make a dash, and then I'm going to repeat that dash cases number of times. Okay, so dash times cases. So what I'm doing is for every day that I have data for, I get the number of cases on that day, and then I do that many dashes, so each case is going to be a dash. Now the problem with this is that there are actually quite a lot of cases. There's 634 cases, and if I do 634 dashes, that's just going to fill up the screen. So in order to make the graph a little bit smaller, I'm going to divide the number of cases by 10. I'm going to put 2 division symbols in there. That means round it to a whole number. Okay, so let's try running it again. And now I've got an app with 3 options. Let's test every option. So number 1, show me today's data. There we go. Number 2, show me a graph. And there's a graph. Now the only thing I notice is I haven't shown the date. So that shows that there's graph increasing over time, but it doesn't show the date. Let's go back and show the date. So I'm going to print date equals day.get date, and then print date before I print the graph. Let's try it again. So stop, run again. Show graph number 2. There we go. So here are all the dates, and this is the really nice time we had in Poland before we started having COVID-19. And then here we get the first case, so you can see that was on the 8th of March. And then the number of cases has been increasing. Okay, and that is yesterday. So this gives us the number of cases. So where I say show graph, let's say show graph of number of cases. Okay. Now guys, I have written all of the app that I'm going to write, but what I want you guys to do, based on what you've seen so far, okay, first of all, let's just go through the things that we've seen. This part, don't worry if you don't understand it, because that part is just to get the data. You don't have to understand how it works. This part is so that the program doesn't end until you actually choose number 3, the exit app option. This gets a choice from the user, so the user can type 1, 2 or 3 in order to do whatever they want to do in the app. Now if they choose number 1, this is how we print out information about today. If they choose number 2, this is how we print out information about the number of cases over time. Okay, so there are a few things that you can do to improve this app. Okay, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to read in not only the data for Poland, but also the data for one other country. And then I want you, when you choose option 1, show today's data, I want you to change that so that you can show today's data in Poland, and then number 2, show today's data in whatever country you picked. Okay, now secondly, it says show graph of number of cases, so you're going to need to have show graph of number of cases in Poland and show graph of number of cases in whatever country you chose. So those should be 2 different options. Now after you've done that, you might also want to add another graph. So if you've managed to do the graph of number of cases, you could also do the graph showing, for example, the number of people who've recovered, or even the number of people who've died. So guys, there's lots of different things that you can add to this app to create a menu with lots of different options. Okay, if you are really good at Python programming, then you might be able to do lots of these different features of the app. So showing today's data from Poland, showing today's data from one other country, showing today's graph of the number of cases in Poland, showing today's graph, showing a graph of the number of cases in whatever other country you chose, and then maybe even showing graphs of the number of people who have recovered or the number of people who've died. Okay, so guys, that's it for today. I hope that this topic isn't too morbid. That's not my intention, but at the same time I want to show you what a great tool Python is for understanding things that are happening in the news, and if your goal maybe is to become something in the medical field later on, if you're thinking of becoming a doctor or a nurse or an economist or anything like that, you get a little bit of a taste here of how important it is to be able to use Python to monitor data in real time, and be able to analyze that data using programming.